All right, welcome everyone. We're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we're here for
Legend of the Galactic Heroes, episode 33.
Space Station versus Space Station.
All right, yeah. So, Star Wars, what you did was cool, but
Yeah.
it wasn't anime enough because you only had one space station at a time.
Right.
What if you had two?
Right, you know that part when the one guy shoots the laser and the other guy shoots the laser and the lasers hit and it does the anime thing? Yeah, like, can we have that, but have it actually,
Sci-fi tech,
like,
you know?
feel, like, exciting, you know?
Like, like, if you think about it, wasn't the Death Star really, in its best sense, just a mecha piloted by a lot of people? So, this is still doing that whole anime thing of the mechas fighting each other, except it's space station.
Yeah, but we got to take this seriously.
No, we got to take it seriously.
So, we've got ourselves the Imperial fleet on its way.
Well,
but we haven't seen them yet.
Mm-hmm.
We have to deal with the fact that Yang is not at Iserlon.
Which
so
might be a good idea.
It's going to be either they blow each other up really quickly, or it's going to be a tense standoff as they're unable to necessarily engage entirely within like a measurable, acceptable range of success or failure here.
But given that Geiersberg is just going and opening fire, makes it seem like this fortress is an acceptable loss.
Or we'll find out just really how tough the shields on both sides are against these weapons.
But
because the way they're making it seem like is that they'll be able to wait out potentially for Yang, which just seems absurd to think about.
90 kilometers in diameter. That's big. That's big.
Yeah, in space it's like
but in space it's a little thing. It's a tiny little thing. And this big laser is about to blow a giant hole in
I have to assume in some ways it's going to go either way, where it's going to be a shield integrity, hull integrity at 89% and holding, or it's going to be, well, we just lost 500,000 men when that section of the hull ruptured.
Because this isn't supposed to happen. It's never happened before. So
it's unprecedented.
Yeah. It's not like that. Like in Star Wars, for instance, right? When you have like a window break open, I understand that being, them having little things to close over that. Right. You don't have that for something like Iserlon.
No.
No. Like, are all the characters on there just gonna die? Like, I don't know.
Yeah. If anything, the one thing that we have going for us here is that they've set up stakes that have yet to be matched, I would say, entirely from the Empire's side.
Right.
So we need to see where their fleet is, what's going on there, and then what overall strategy will be employed if the first shot doesn't completely end this. So, y'all, without further ado, let's get into this. All right, everyone, now be sure to go check out the reaction portion of the video in the description below, then come back here for the discussion. Okay, all right. I'd say the Alliance very much handled that well.
Yep. Thank you, Mercats. You're amazing.
And Mercats, just Mercats more like MVP cats, like
Shankov was amazing too.
Yes, they had to fight on the surface of the liquid outer defenses.
Right, that was really cool.
Which I love that we got a visual presentation of that, because when Iserlon was taken, it was a non-violent takeover.
Right.
So we didn't actually see Iserlon's defenses really tested to the extent that they are here.
Yep.
So when the weapon, either the Thor's hammer or Geiersberg's equivalent, fires and breaches it, it's actually something that regenerates back, but creates a massive influx of energy, kills nearly everyone in that small area.
Right, destroys a ton of stuff on the inside, but the bubble skin kind of a thing, since it's liquid, just sort of reforms over it and they're okay.
Right.
Which is awesome. Like, as far as like
advanced technology that's simple and easy to understand,
Right, because otherwise it just wouldn't make sense to have a space station like that.
Nope.
It wouldn't. Like
it's too much investment for
for way too easy to
go wrong.
Exactly. So, but the way they did that was awesome, and it also explains the whole situation of, which I hadn't really, like they'd shown before, but I hadn't really thought too closely about, of the defenses. And the idea that since it's a liquid surface, you can just have floating defense guns that just consolidate to wherever they're needed, and then there you go.
I loved also some of the tactics being things that we don't need to have, like, understood are a thing before. Like the way they used gravity to pull the actual mass of the liquid defense part on Iserlon, which is something they would know they could do because that was their fortress at one point. Right. So they end up drawing the majority of it towards their side by bringing another massive, planetoid basically into its sphere. Not a planetoid, but a small moon. Well, and then the fleet fires from the other side. That was just really clever.
And things like that, because, Iserlon and the way it's set up, right? It's the whole thing of, it's the impregnable fortress, right? How do you make an impregnable fortress actually have conflict surrounding it when it's impregnable? That's kind of tough, right?
You make it only impregnable with certain things.
Right. And that specifically the things that make it able to be, damaged, be in danger, whatever, are things that, of course, no one would have thought of those things because they didn't exist until now, right? Sure. This is a higher form of war where now you've got two space stations duking it out. So things like gravitationally shifting the Mercury, whatever, like, field thing.
Whatever that is,
And granted, they mentioned that, we can adjust for that, but that does take time. And because they had the fleet positioned
to take advantage
of it when it happened, they were still able to get us with it, right?
Yep.
And that's something where it makes sense that, because, whenever something happens and it works, it's why didn't people use it before? Was everyone else just incompetent? No, it's that you couldn't do this before.
Right. We have no way of predicting every tactic that they're going to use. We just know, based on that, we know that fleet is not necessarily our main threat right now, so we're going to keep Thor's hammer on this side of the space station for now. Because if we adjust things and then they start opening fire again, we'll take too many shots for the one or two that we end up being able to give them by the time Thor's hammer comes all the way back around again.
Exactly.
So this was a battle of tempo, and where Kempf, by the end of the episode, is in some ways realizing that they've completely lost tempo by being the aggressor here and failing in some ways to fully take advantage of the tactics that they used. And then saying that they have the advantage is like saying,
we haven't lost yet.
We are still dictating that this fight must go on.
Right. We're not losing.
Well, I would say that they are losing.
Well, yeah.
But it's that they have a larger fleet, for sure, I would say. They probably do.
Yep.
They also have the terms of engagement set in that they have to fight here. So there's that. But other than that, no, it's pretty neutral, actually. Or the Empire is more just expending resources for no gain, if that makes sense. It's one of those things where they're going to end up playing the war of, I spend my resources to reduce your resources numbers, and whose resource numbers hit zero the fastest.
And given the fact that the damage that the space stations are doing to each other, Iserlon and Geiersberg, is definitely substantial.
It is noticeable.
It's not as crazy as we originally expected, and it's not it doesn't seem to be the kind of thing where they will easily get to a point where, because we've done enough damage, even if we get destroyed, that station is going down, right?
Right.
Iserlon will fall because we've hit it enough, right?
Yep, exactly.
So the whole idea of a slugfest, it is terrifying, but it seems a lot more feasible.
It seems very feasible, specifically because of how the defenses for these fortresses, when they're at this scale, work.
Yep.
We have to deal with the fact, though, that Yang, while actually being now on a ship and on his way, is being sent only with a modicum of a ragtag police and security fleet, which isn't of itself just another reminder, hey, Alliance, you're not so much a democracy anymore if military fleets are counted as police,
Right.
That's a little,
it's
much of a thing. But 5,000 ships, when we just casually threw in 8,000 ships that Kempf was like, sending a little bit of reinforcements.
Right.
8,000 ships. There you go. Yang's like, I'm coming in with 5,000.
Now Yang can do a lot, right? We've seen him do it before.
Yes, but he prefers to win 6-1.
Exactly.
Not 1-6.
Yeah, usually it's more 1-6, right?
Yeah, maybe 1-3 if it's a good day.
But the terrifying thing here is,
right,
if those are now gone, right? The security forces for just the general alliance area, right, are going to Iserlon, right?
Okay, yeah.
And they have the rest of their fleet at Heinesen.
Mm-hmm.
So even if Yang does win,
sure,
he probably will, but he's gonna really have to pull some strings there, right? It won't be easy.
What?
This doesn't seem like all of the Imperial fleet.
Well, no, that's the thing. That's the thing. We had the supposition brought up here that Lohengrin might not have even showed up. In fact, I don't think he did.
Nope.
In fact, I think one of the things that might end up being helpful here is our prediction thing of them going along through the Fejan corridor.
Right, like they mentioned. Yeah.
Might not even be something that would work this time because the Alliance was so paranoid about sending their whole fleet under, their first fleet under Yang, who is someone that they don't like, and they don't want to give that kind of power, means that if the Empire did attack, the Alliance from the other side, they would actually have their strongest fleet available to, meet them at the very least.
And you know what that sounds like?
What?
It sounds like a nice little repeat that we could have of when the Alliance invaded the Empire.
But that would mean that the Empire would lose horrendously.
No. That the Empire would crush the Alliance because the Alliance doesn't have competent military personnel at the capital, right? So they basically, even though they didn't send Yang with many people, that means Yang won't have a massive fleet to come save them if they get beaten at home.
Well, yeah, but it's all based on the assumption that the Empire is actually attacking that way.
Right.
I think, if anything, what they're setting up here is that No, Reinhardt is just throwing a new tactic into the field here.
Oh, yeah?
And is completely no, I don't even care if this wins or loses, really. I just want you to be invested in it, Kempf. This is your whole expedition here you're doing with Mueller. And if anything, based on how it goes, we'll probably see in the next episode here, because he was saying, they're requiring a sit rep. They'll be like, we have the advantage, and then maybe then we'll see how Reinhardt sends his response, if you will. If it's a fleet or if it's just a message, we'll see. But I think at this point they're trying to bring up the idea that no, this is just another form of attacking. This isn't some all out
definitely
engagement.
Well, Kempf, you're great, Kempf, but Reinhardt has better admirals. And maybe it's something where he's not wanting any specifically Mittermeier and Ruenthal to get too much glory all themselves, kind of a thing. Keep it more of a balanced playing field if I'm the one leading this or this whole deal. But this seems kind of like a feint as much as a fortress attacking or just poking defenses and seeing what happens.
Well, we had the foreshadowing that Kempf was going to fail with regards to the fact when we saw him with his family. But I feel like, if anything, the question that they are leaving up in the air, and we are supposed to wonder, is where is the main Imperial fleet? What is it doing? We don't know, and we're just left up in the air to guess at that. And that is unnerving, because we know, in a lot of ways, that you're right. If I don't even know who would lead the first fleet for the Alliance. No characters, really, that so far would go with that, because right now, it's, Kubersley and Bucock that are our good boys, and Kubersley is injured, so he wouldn't do it.
So Bucock tries to defend the whole place against
maybe, but then would they even want him, because he's not someone that's on their side with regards to the politicians. So it's a murky situation, but it's getting more and more clear that it's not going to be an overwhelming Empire victory right now in the Iserlon corridor. Because Kemph is starting to do things that are based more around his
desperation and
reputation.
greed. Yeah.
And Mueller is starting to notice that, which is something that he's like, I don't like that. But we also had the new information that they got.
Yang's not there.
Yang is not there.
Could get them to do something even more like ballsy, because they're like, if he's not here, then we should be fine. And then they don't realize that Chad is there.
Right.
And you know, they get screwed.
Yeah. I'm actually hoping that what could be really cool is that they go again for some kind of a communique, like ultimatum of sorts, and they like try to suss out actually a little bit more what's the situation, you know, going on there. And I could see it being something that would actually end up screwing over the Empire even more, because you have some pretty good people, you know, helming this whole thing in addition to Mercats. And the Empire could essentially try and taunt them with the fact that they know that Yang's, you know, not there, trying to get out more of this whole situation. But or here's another thing: they sent the fleet around the back of Iserlon. They could try to basically just
catch Yang
and catch Yang as he's on his way.
That's one of the other things I was thinking about too, because like if they've got a pretty big fleet out there, that's great. You circumvented Iserlon. Like, now it might not be something where because maybe it's something where you actually have to like refuel at Iserlon in order to be able to make the jump into Alliance space, right? Probably. But that's still something where they can at least try and intercept Yang as he comes back in.
Sure.
And given the fact that he only has a fleet of 5,000, that might not be the best situation to be in for him.
True. The only thing that the Alliance has on their side is that they have been shown with Mercatz's leadership to be able to maneuver around Iserlon in an effective way, to where if they overextended themselves too far to where reinforcements couldn't come from Kemph's side in a timely manner, Yang's fleet that they were trying to ambush or basically get there in time, because they wouldn't be able to communicate probably to Yang because they said all the EM stuff that's going on. Yang's fleet would end up being just the other side of a pincer with Mercats and Yang just smashing a fleet between the two of them. So
which is kind of what already happened here. You know, like that.
Right. It was just Iserlon was the other side of the pincer instead.
Yeah, because even if you're out of range of Iserlon, that's something where it's like, okay, this big space over there, we can't move in that direction.
Right.
Because otherwise, if we do, you know, we'll get lasered. So... all right, we're kind of with our back against the wall now.
Yes. One of the things that is almost in a funny way a comparison to MOBAs that they have the advantage of here with the Alliance is that they're fighting under your fort.
Right.
Why are you fighting under their fort when it's not damaged enough to make it worthwhile?
And even if you're not like fighting right under the fort, if you're fighting near the fort, then they can always just sort of like, we're just going to go back over here and just rest a little bit and then come back out. So
there's that problem there as well. We got a little bit with Julian, foreshadowing a little bit of them trying to set up some kind of like, you know, a decade later marriage kind of thing, which, hey, I will say what I like is that they're kind of saying, hey, Julian, you're going to last 10 years.
Right.
Or this show might last 10 years. But what it's also setting up is the idea of, you know, people can be in dynamics where they're just not saying something that needs to be said. And, you know, Yang, Frederica, I mean...
she's right there.
She's right there, and Julian's not blind. You do show a little bit of a flirty banter every once in a while with her.
You enjoy it when she brings you tea that may or may not have, you know, something special in there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And also, I feel like it's a reference to... I can't remember if it was Yang that said this, but when someone was commenting on the state of the Alliance and how... people were kind of pressured and stuff to go into the military. The idea that when you stop thinking about the next generation, you know, and basically feeding and whatnot, the next generation, that kind of ends up either spelling or being a good like finger on the pulse that things aren't going too well, you know, as a general organization, and that maybe the end is closer than you think. So
at the very least, dramatic reform would be needed,
Right.
or we'd come to the end. That was something also that was kind of almost a little dark, but I would say a little bit kind of just showing the cool shades of gray that this show explores is the political angle of where Yang was saying a dictatorship is not necessarily evil. I could just hear like specific people that I know in real life who, if I like started a conversation, I'm like, a dictatorship isn't necessarily evil. Who would just like my father fought and then the yada yada yada. But it's the idea that what Reinhardt is doing is kind of not normal.
Right.
Meaning we don't have too many historical comparisons to this thing throughout history. We can count on two hands like the times that has happened in all of human history, maybe on one hand even.
Right.
And usually the problem is not even necessarily the fact that it's a dictatorship. The problem is that you then put all the decision-making power into the hands of a one-person descending lineage, and then their grandchild eventually is the one that completely systemically collapses society.
Right. And even if you're doing great, making tons of progress, we've seen in this show, one incompetent person in a position of authority can very quickly screw the pooch.
Yes.
Like, it is not hard.
It is so very easy.
And that's even if you were right and the person that was the dictator actually turned out to be the good one.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
But, how long does that last? And that's why it's the whole thing of the, if the person can give up the power afterwards, great. Almost no one will. And in some ways...
usually does,
I mean... That doesn't necessarily mean that a group of people will be able to do better than them anyways. But,
Right. This is one of the things that I've heard in many different discussions regarding the, evaluation of an individual versus a group and the different evils that come, basically. Evils is a strong word, but basically the different faults that you can run into when you put power in the hands of an individual or a group. With the group, in some ways, you sink to the lowest common denominator because there's so much to be gained from the unity of the group. You're able to tackle things from so many different angles, and you provide, I would say, a much more balanced perspective. Unless you have it actually more in the hands of an individual leading the group.
Right.
And the individual is the one that essentially kind of causes things to be a little bit more on the extreme side of things, which can lead to a lot more stuff getting done, like they were talking about with advancements and stuff. But it also means that, they could just have a bad day.
Yeah, it's a two-edged sword.
It is a double-edged sword.
You get lots of stuff done. Is that going to be good stuff or bad stuff? I don't know.
Who knows?
It's going to be a lot of stuff, When you have a group of people, what do they get done? Not a lot. But that means when they screw up, at least they're not screwing up too big, Like,
see, that's kind of the weird thing that they've got right now in the Empire is that the incompetence of the Alliance means that they only screw up, really, when they mobilize everything, which is literally what happened when they did that. And they put the entire group, in some ways, in an investment standpoint, they put all their eggs in one basket. The Empire, where it screwed up over the course of time, was putting all this group stuff into the hands of a bunch of individuals. So their nobility, in a sense, failed because they were trying to have their cake and eat it. They're like, we are all individuals with power.
Right.
And we are also a collective for the group of the Empire.
Right.
Yeah, no, just corruption. Corruption completely.
And it was a different kind of thing. You'd still get stuff to happen.
Oh, yeah.
Because it was a bunch of little dictatorships.
Yeah, exactly. Then in this case, we have an actual dictatorship that is not representative of the people, but it is for the people. So that creates a very, very unique setup where, in Yang's view, there is some value to keeping the dictatorship of the Empire around, not to unify the galaxy, not to unify the human race, but as another faction that we could find a way to bring balance to people with. That's just too much for my small political brain to kind of think about the like, but does that even like make sense? Like, because I'm with him. The generational thing is where the problems will lie. Is
Right.
that even if you idealize the man of Reinhard Lohengrin,
Mhm.
which they already are, there is so much hero worship in this show regarding Yang and Reinhard that their actual persons do not match up with the reputations built up for them.
And a fair amount of it is deserved.
A fair amount, but not all of it.
Well, but the
So
point is,
meaning like the actual attributes of the persons could not actually be realized fully. Meaning that the more power that comes into them, the more that reputation and their actual nature will start to separate.
Yep. I'm so excited for Reinhardt and Yang to sit down and have a good conversation because I
by the
feel
time
like
that happens, the show's about to be over.
Maybe not.
Like not like sitting down and talking at all. I'm meaning like in person.
It could happen.
Like a balcony of like
what makes a good king. Like
right. No. That will happen over comms. That's going to happen much sooner.
I think they would pay each other enough respect to do it in person. They'd be like, I've always wanted to talk with you.
Yeah.
Reinhardt would be like, I have some great tea. And Yang's like, I do like tea,
Right. I feel like it will happen multiple times over comms before we get the actual conversation that you're talking about. Because that's gonna take some time, dude. Like
it's gonna be so good though when it happens.
I'm with you.
I just hope it's not like even though it wouldn't happen like this because they're in space and everything, but it wouldn't be like as they're both dying or whatever, like kind of a thing. Like they actually have a conversation when things are kind of sort of going okay a little bit.
Right. I feel like if anything, there will probably come a point where there will be some form of a ceasefire, depending on the scale and length of actual in-show time.
Right.
For this
especially
story.
If Yang goes dictator.
Well, especially if Yang ends up taking over the alliance. Wait, what?
No, not becoming a dictator, but having a coexistence.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, if anything, if it gets to that point, the discussion is almost it's too late. They should have had it by then. So, yeah. But y'all, it was a really good episode. We got to see the fortresses just blowing each other up. Mm-hmm. This was a
very
visually satisfying, episode. And now Kempf starting to air, my friend.
The goddess of victory. You're going after her panties too hard right now.
Yep.
Just play it safe, slow and steady.
Throw a little flirting in there.
Exactly.
So, y'all, thank you so much for watching this episode's reaction and discussion. If you want to see the next episode's reaction and discussion right now, though, go check out the link in the description below for our Patreon. You can get on early access there. You can watch full-length timer reactions there. And all this comes with Discord access. So you can chat with us in the community there about this show, about anime in general. And you can also talk with Jacob about the sci-fi novel that he wrote.
That's right. I wrote a sci-fi novel. It's really awesome. It's called Battle Lines, and if you're interested, it's on Amazon. The link is in the description down below.
Yeah, so if any of that interests you, we'll see you there. But until then, we're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we'll see you all next time.